You have a new book called Operational Resilience. Please share with our audience what this book's about and who's going to benefit from reading it.
So it's really targeted towards leaders and I would say some practitioners, but there's three things I really that sort of really drove me to write this book. One is really, I think there's been a bit of complacency around resilience. It sort of comes to light whenever we have a crisis, whether it's a crowd strike, there's geopolitical threats going on, wars. You know, when something becomes near to our territory, then it becomes sort of the next hot topic. I really want to change that mindset shift to really think about how it can really help an organization advance growth and drive business value. And what I mean by that is really, when you think about, and I have to use parallels, right, with the banking industry, a retail bank, if you've got a retail bank that's available and are available 24/7, you're more likely to bank with them, right? Because there's sort of sustainability with that bank. It's open all the time you need it. What does that do? It builds market share, it builds customer brand, it builds loyalty. That improves the bottom line. So sort of thinking about resilience from the lens of how it's really helping drive business value and growth. Also, that's something, you know, the stakeholders, the boards and your investors are looking for. What are you doing? How resilient are you? So really sort of trying to change the narrative on that. I'm also really I take the book, I try and simplify a lot of the complexities. It's a very complex world that we live in. So getting behind the regulations, often that sometimes when these regulations, and obviously the financial industry, many of you know, is highly regulated, and people look at that as a sort of the beacon, right? I know healthcare and others follow, but again, you have to get behind the regulations. If the regulation says tie your shoelaces left to right, people tie them left to right rather than thinking they're asking us to tie our shoelaces. Why? Is it to keep your shoe in the foot? You know, just really understanding the intent and purpose. I use that as a very simple analogy because I think sometimes that gets lost in translation. And then you may find the way you approach, the way you solution or build to that regulation or comply with it may be different. You may be able to simplify, you may be able to connect a few other things together that are going on across the organization. So the third point I make is, after getting behind the regulations, is understanding how globally connected we are. You know, the pandemic was a great example of that. And it's not just because I've grown up in finance, it's a book targeted to the financial service industry. It's actually targeted with, I use examples from manufacturing, from transportation, primarily because we're a globally connected ecosystem. We really need to understand the value chain or the supply chain. It's an integral part of how we operate and how resilient we are. You think about sort of, you know, financial services. We all know that we have dependencies on some countries in Asia. What does that do if you need to sort of advance your software and your hardware capabilities? It has a direct impact to your organization. So really understanding more of that value chain outside your industry, so you can really put some guardrails against the things that you can control and the things that you really can't, but you're aware of, helps you manage the risk within your organization much more comprehensively than looking at things in isolation, which may result in very different decisions and strategic objectives. Right?
Sounds like a must read for a lot of people.